Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with my new 14-inch MacBook Pro. I've had it for about a week. This is the. I can get you a little better view there. This is the 14-inch model starting at $24.99, so it's the second tier. 16 gigs of RAM, 10 core CPU, and terabyte hard drive. Now, I love everything about this computer except I wasn't as impressed as I wanted to be with going from the 2019 Intel MacBook 16-inch MacBook Pro with 16 gigs of RAM to this. I noticed right away that the processor, the M1 Pro chip, definitely was much faster than the Intel in some regards, as far as just browsing, opening windows, opening applications, and all of that. But when it came down to getting into large projects within Logic, it wasn't a substantial enough upgrade for me to go from my 2019 16-inch to this. I didn't notice a huge boost when it came to large projects like this in Logic. Now, I will say that for a lot of producers that are more like beginners, or people that use mostly just Logic plugins, stock plugins, you can definitely get away with 16 gigs of RAM. However, especially lately, I love using third-party plugins, large sample libraries. Plugins such as Output. Output has amazing sounding strings, bass, brass, orchestral / synthetic libraries that sound great together. So sometimes I'll use 20, 30, 40 instances of Output native instruments with a ton of plugins on them, with waves plugins, with compressors, EQs, all this. And I just like to be able to have multiple instances of plugins and VSTs such as Output and other things, and that destroys your CPU usage pretty quickly, especially on both of these laptops. I noticed within the first week, I noticed that the M1 Pro just wasn't that substantially better in that department. Now, when I was at the Apple Store, I opened the Billie Eilish template in Logic, and I copy and pasted the tracks 10 times to where there was like 300 tracks, and it was running at like 50% CPU usage at like a buffer rate of 64, which is unbelievable. However, like I said, if those are all Logic stock plugins, which I don't use that much. I use a lot of third-party plugins, which are night and day as far as CPU usage, going from Logic stock plugins to third-party plugins. So I have a session here. I'm on my Intel MacBook Pro, 16-inch. But I'm just going to show you, I think the buffer rate's at 256 here, which is kind of low. If I were like mixing this, I would definitely do it in with probably the highest buffer rate. I'd probably have to do it to really get into the mixing. But say I did all this production, I recorded vocals, and then I decided, you know what, I want to add to the production, or I want to add to the vocals. What I have to do now, which is really annoying to me, is I have to freeze all the tracks. I have to freeze all the tracks, change the buffer rate to maybe be able to record more vocals, but probably not even. I usually can't. After I do all this production, I usually can't add vocals because all these plugins are kind of destroying my CPU, so I wouldn't be able to put the buffer rate low enough to record vocals in time. Now, I know there's workarounds to this. I could bounce all of these plugins as audio tracks. I could keep changing the buffer rate. I could keep freezing tracks. I could keep bouncing things out. But it's a pain. It's really a pain. Like, if your process is like you like to produce and then record and then go back and add more. So that being said, I'm going to return this 14-inch MacBook Pro and get a different one. So I'll show you right here. Here's a song I'm working on. And it doesn't destroy the CPU, but it would be tricky to be able to, if I wanted to go back and add vocals, it would definitely, I don't know if it would be possible. Probably not. 'Cause I'm a cold killer, cold-blooded killer, cold killer, cold-blooded killer, cold killer, cold-blooded killer, cold. So we were peaking sometimes into the 70% CPU usage range. So I might be able to, if I did some work around, I probably could. I mean, if I really wanted to, yeah, I could record more vocals over this. But my point being is that I don't like getting anywhere close to 70% if I want to record or if I want to mix. So to me, it's just, it's worth it to upgrade. It's not worth it for me when I have my 2019, going from my 2019 to this 14-inch, $2,500. It's not that significant of a leap when it comes to mixing in this kind of setting with this amount of plugins. So I have decided, at first I was going to buy the same exact 14-inch model with 32 gigabytes of RAM. But then I was like, well, what if, it's going to take 5-6 weeks for it to get here? What if I decide that that's not enough either? What if I decide, in a few years I want to get into even more friggin' plugins, more complex music production, more complex mixing? Who knows what you're going to want to do years down the line. And if you're paying $3,000 ballpark for a laptop, I would hope you'd want it, especially at this stage, to last 5 years or longer. Especially with these models, I think this is the best MacBook upgrade in like a decade. If we're talking about hardware, ports, I think the 14-inch is the best size MacBook they've made yet. I like the 16-inch, but it's a little big, it's a little bulky, it's a little heavy. The 13-inch was also nice, but it was, back in the day, the 13 inches were weak as shit. They couldn't do anything in Logic, barely. 14 inch is like the perfect size. It's light, compact. I plan to use this for like at least 5 years, so I'm going to go with the M1 Max chip so that I can get 64 gigs of RAM and not, hopefully never ever have to worry about my CPU doing anything in Logic. So again, it depends what you do in Logic. How intense are you? Are you just kind of doing it for fun? Are you a serious producer? Do you want to get really involved with having tons of tracks and plugins? Me personally, if you're going to invest in this expensive of a laptop, I would just bite the bullet and pay as much as you can and get the most power and RAM that you can, so that you don't have to worry a few years down the line, like if you made the wrong choice. It's possible that in a few years they have the next amazing MacBook, but I kind of feel like this is the biggest leap we're going to see for, I would think, at least 5 years. Maybe not, who knows, but I think this next gen MacBook is by far my favorite, so I'm going to spend a lot of money, go all out, and you know, hope that it lasts me a long time. But yeah, other than that, let me know your guys' thoughts. Like, what are you planning on buying? What did you buy? What are your thoughts on this? Maybe 64 gigabytes is even ridiculous for me, but I'd rather just not have to worry about it, or worry about changing my mind and sending it back and waiting another month after waiting a month for that laptop. So anyway, guys, hope you like this video. If you want to hear more or talk about the different laptop models or workflow and logic and CPU usage, go ahead and leave comments below. Please like this video and subscribe if it helped you at all, and I'll see you next time.